today's webinar on TechGig.com. Today's topic is leveraging social media, Facebook and beyond. We are delighted to have Nimesh Shah as the speaker today. Nimesh is the co-founder at Winchimps Communications. Nimesh is a passionate marketer and has enormous experience in social media space. Gentlemen, Nimesh will deliver a 45 minutes presentation in this webinar, and after that, he will answer your questions in the live Q&A section. You can ask your questions in the chat pane available in webinar control panel. So without taking much time, I invite Nimesh to present this webinar. Over to you. Yeah, Mr. Shah, can you please share your screen?
Just one sec, please. Is the screen visible to all?
Yes, your screen is visible now.
Alright, so we're making the thank you everyone for joining in this webinar. As I was introduced, what I'll be doing today is just taking you guys through what social media is all about. I will also be introducing some concepts that exist in social media which we follow at Winchimes and which we firmly believe if you were to practice should help you really get results from this space. So what we have right now is sort of those concepts going in, and post that we will have a series of Q&A. I also invite all of you all to keep raising questions in between. I shall of course be taking them if they're relevant for that moment. I'll be answering them at that time, or I'll just be leaving it for later once we're done with the presentation. So just to give you all a little brief background about what really is this space, I want to show you a bit of a clip, and I think this film should give a much better idea about what social media, and answer a larger question: is social media a fad, or it has a lot more to offer?
Hello.
Seems to be a bit of
Your voice is not very clear.
Yeah.
Can you please?
Is it better now?
Yes. Please keep the mic at a little distance.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Thank you.
Is it better now? Right now? Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Alright, so let me show you this film, and it should answer a very big question right now. Is social media sad, or is there something a lot more to it? Here you go.
But the voice of this video is not clear.
Hello? Great. Apologies for all that's happened. I think glitches, as much as you would try and avoid them, they just can't seem to go. So we're back on track though. And what I'm going to do is do away with all those videos and all that stuff and just start with what social media really is all about. So let me just answer that query on why is social media not a fad. And here, before I even roll off into anything, I must give you a difference that social media is not equal to a Facebook or a Twitter. Those are merely platforms. They are nothing but manifestation of what social media is all about. So social media could be, again, another thing which you need to consider, that social media is not just about online space. The very fact that in a room there could be a whole lot of people discussing ideas, exchanging points of views, even that is constituted as social media. So social media does not mean online media. It is a space where people come together, exchange views, exchange their thoughts and ideas, online or offline. Both of them constitute as social media. So why is it that I say that social media is not a fad? That's purely because the changes that happen on social media are more societal in nature. I'm not talking about changes that happen purely from a technology front, but the change that happened in the way we consume the media, in the way our habits have changed, in the way we go about discussing and talking about and our own interactions with our friends. All of those have undergone a change. Let me bring out one such change right now when I talk about the society changes that have come into play. So one of the biggest thing is that we started forming a lot of interest-based communities. Today communities are getting formed all on hobbies. So what you see is right now couch surfing, which is a community that's meant more from travelers. You also have communities that are based on people having interest on bikes or on cyclists. So essentially the community forming that has taken place has led to people coming in more together out there and befriending and exchanging points based on the interest and passion areas. The other change that you would see is a big shift is that the 90s was all about browsing and trying to search new places. The 2000s, decade after that, went more from browsing to search. And what we are now witnessing and really experiencing is the age and the era of discovery. We all are going to various platforms. Behaviors have changed, and we're now trying to seek and figure out more information. What that essentially has led to is the sheer quantum of growth that one sees for portals has actually been in the negative. While search has maintained and stabilized itself, it's the social space that has really shot off, and we see a lot of increase in the usage and increase in the acceptance of the space. So that's one of the things which is leading to a lot more of the way we are changing our media consumption habits. Essentially, what are these trends indicating? It's that when communication power, which used to earlier rest with the advertiser, with the marketer, has today moved to the people. Today, brand managers, marketers are essentially losing control. As I had the freedom earlier to decide what my communication is going to be all about, I could figure out where and what I'm going to play, and I could control a lot about my communication that would happen with brands. Today, that's really gone off. Today, the only thing that you could do is manage. And what this is all led to is giving birth to something which is purely and completely democratized social media, a credible medium. The best manifestation of such is Wikipedia, which clearly shows that how it has all been built together, and everyone has come in and they've contributed to it. And today, which is why you see a lot more action and collaboration on this space. So moving in from here, what we say is these are some statistics which are there on the Indian market and how social media over here is doing in India. So you have like, more than 45 million Indians that are on Facebook, approximately 10 million Indian accounts on Twitter, in so many Indian brands already going out there. So, enough and many numbers which have been, they're available for us to say that they are all there. So opportunity exists. Now it's all about how does one go about really tapping into that opportunity. Oops, that seems to be. This is. I just want to highlight the decision-making process that classically would happen. So whenever ad would get released, this pyramid essentially shows the purchase behavior. What is the process that goes on in one's mind right from the stage of awareness till eventual conversion that would happen for the brand. So as a brand manager, you would be keen to ensure that when you release your advertising, you're creating a lot of awareness about your product, which in turn is you're hoping that because your advertising has broken the clutter, your brand could be in the consideration set of the consumers, and eventually they could move on from turning into just a consideration to final conversion. So that essentially is the kind of pyramidal cycle that would go on, a purchase behavior that would go on in a consumer's mind. Now, what has happened is that because of the excessive amount of brands that have started, communicating today, there's an increasingly high amount of clutter, and awareness is really not helping brands, reach the consideration set of the consumer. So the one piece that is lagging right now is that of engagement. And what we firmly believe is that in today's times, awareness has to post the awareness, brands have to walk that distance and build engagement with the consumers. Only then, post the engagement, will the consumers get into consumers will start taking the brand in their consideration set. And from the consideration set, it will then move on to a conversion. Now, engagement really cannot be carried out by a traditional media. It has to be done by social, because it gives you that kind of a play area to engage with brands, get them to participate with you. So hence it's very important from a decision-making behavior that engagement plays a role over here. So what is it? What is mantra? What we have identified is that in all this chaos that exists in social media, there are a set of guidelines that one needs to follow. Now, we have identified and mapped these guidelines as what I call as VULP. So V would mean building value for the community. Now, value, I think, has been one of the most cliche and abused terms. So let me just highlight a little bit more in terms of what I mean by value. Value did not just be humor. Value could also be information. It could also be a little bit excitement that you could create. Value could also mean, the kind of engagement that you could build in. It essentially answers a very big question, which is, why should a customer, a person, keep coming back to me as a brand? Why should someone want to interact with me? So what is it that you bring to the table which is going to be the most exciting thing for the user, and which would want user to remember you and keep coming back to you? The second interesting part, the U part of it, is basically allowing UGC, which is called as user-generated content. Because since it's a two-way medium, it would always be encouraging that brands not just use this space as a news dissemination tool, but also use it as a platform to gather a lot of feedback, a lot of ideas, a lot of content from the users. Nothing works better than allowing users to be a part of a larger space. It builds affinity. It builds a sort of a connect with the brand that one would always want, and one would always want to build. The third aspect of this mantra is about listening to people's point of view. A fairly common thing, but the most missed out aspect. I've seen several instances where a lot of people have started their work on social media immediately after getting the brief from the client. That's really not the way it should be. You really need to scan the universe, figure out what is it that the users of the TG of that brand, what is it that it's trying to seek, what is it trying to achieve, what is it that they want to really listen, what do they want to really hear. That is very important. That is your starting point. Once you figure that out, that what exactly are the kind of areas that the people would want you to speak about or tell them about, you really can start off from there. And last but again the more critical thing is about participation. Nothing builds a more stronger brand connect than getting user to participate with you. So ensure that at all points of time, at all degrees, you have people who are coming back, who are trying to be a part of this campaign. I think that's more critical. So these 4 guidelines that are out there work. What we have realized, they work across verticals, they work across domain areas, they work across brand names, and they work across whether you're a small, medium, or a large company. These are basically the principles. And what I would like to do before I move on and share with you some more examples is that keep these values in front of you, keep these values at the back of your mind. As we move along and discuss a lot of other case studies and examples, try and see how each brand has really integrated these 4 principles or these 4 guidelines into their campaigns. So very quickly giving you 2 examples that some of the brands that I've got built, and I've tried to be slightly more unconventional here so that one gets you're not just talking of the large big brands but also unknowns becoming brands. What you now see is a video snapshot of a gentleman by the name of Matt Harding. He was average, a guy next door who basically took some time off and started traveling around the world. And what he did was that in his time of year plus that he was traveling to various countries, he came out with snapshots and visuals and videos or video clips of a peculiar dance that he invented. He put together that entire video and which showed his dance on all the countries, and it's become so popular that it's got millions and millions of views. It's become so popular now that Visa as a company actually got him on board and made a film out of it. So it just goes on to show that if you have the right set of content and if you use social media effectively, you can leverage yourself and become a brand in itself. The other example that we often see, and I'm sure a lot of you are already on Twitter and are interacting with Gul Pranag, but she's another very good example of how being one of the foremost people to get onto this space and be very original with her thinking, with her ideas, and being very honest to the platform. She tweeted about things which reflected her personality, which reflected what she is as a person, and which really won her a lot of followers. So very interesting example, because when she started building in that kind of followers, companies started approaching her, and she even got various opportunities to be the official ambassador for them for X particular event or for a particular brand. So I'm sure there are a lot of more examples that I will touch upon, which are the larger companies. But the reason I've picked up these 2 are because they're unconventional, and what they've done really well is they've remained true to social media space. They have created content which is original, which is very simple, which has a lot of value, it has a lot of fun elements, it has a lot of information to it, and they've remained honest to it. And because of that, they have become, they have achieved a lot of popularity and of course a lot of celebrity status also. And at the same time, there are also a lot of other brands that really didn't do a good job of social media or tried to apply the traditional media principles on social media. A classic example, I think, is of Domino's Pizzas, where in US, these 2 employees of Domino's really did really a most disgusting thing of putting the cheese in their nose and then actually serving that cheese on a pizza and giving it out. As if this wasn't enough, they made a video out of it and put it up for public airing, which obviously brought Domino's business to a complete standstill and literally got their CEO and the entire company to their knees. Here's another example of a company not really doing a very good job on social media. Now, Nestle essentially has, for some strange reason, just got it wrong right from day one, because they had a presence with the KitKat brand on various social media platforms, and so there was a time where people started discussing and telling Nestle that they shouldn't really be involved with deforestation issue. And Nestle, instead of really tackling that problem using the KitKat, because it was happening on the KitKat page, instead of tackling that problem, started talking against the users. And what people started doing is they morphed the KitKat logo into various other mnemonics, to make it, to raise the concern against the environment and the other problems that are there. And the Nestle social media managers, instead of tackling the problem, really ask people to move out, and not be on that page if they are really not interested. And what happened after that was a major backlash, and something that you really don't want people to do. You have gone on social media, so you have to realize that you have to respect people's views, and if there is a concern, then tackle the concern, but you cannot have a sense of authority or control on this space and abuse the users. So moving on, I want to take the next session and quickly move on to some of the platforms that exist over here, and also say what these platforms are all about, and what is it that one could do on each of them and build a brand and achieve various objectives therein. So just let's start with Facebook. This is, as you all know, the new design that is going to kick off from 31st March. Facebook has yet again changed their look and feel, and I think what has happened now is much of a timeline feature that's come into play. I personally feel this is a right way to do that, because I think this allows Facebook and brands to create more stories, more have a more storytelling approach. So this is the Facebook page that one sees over there. You now have an opportunity to put up a profile picture. You also have a larger opportunity for a cover photograph. This design has already been implemented on your profiles, and you can now have your profiles in a similar manner. But this is what the fan pages will look like from 1st April onwards. You also have an opportunity to put down a description about what the brand is all about and what is it that you want to tell your audiences about it. There is a space for various tabs and the number of people who really like the page, and who are the friends who are also out there who really like your page. This to me is the most interesting part, which is the timeline. It actually helps you build up a story. Brands that have a legacy, brands that have a heritage, can effectively use this space and take the user all the way down to when they were founded and connect with them, right from that stage. So it's a very interesting feature, and we'll see how some people have used it effectively in the next slide. So the new profile picture, here are certain snapshots, and we're just trying to say that how some brands have already moved on to the new platform. Here is the one that we have for Chevrolet, which really talks about how they are going more into eco-friendly cars and what is it that they're doing about it. This is another interesting example of President Barack Obama, where I think he's trying to showcase his achievements at a larger level. So what you really see on screen is the scenario when Obama took office, where there was actually unemployment that was going on for a while, and how in his term he has been able to swing that trend and showcase and create employment, which is right now the #1 issue in US. So I think distinctly, these are few scenarios which that how cover pictures can be handled well, how cover pictures can be tackled and used very well from the campaign. There's another interesting example of a PR firm who has done a clever job of their cover picture. So you don't necessarily have to fill it up. Something like this is also a very creative use of the space that is there. So what you need to realize is that you have an opportunity that is available today on Facebook. It's up to you to be very creative and use this space to communicate what you really stand for, what is it that you bring to the table, and why is it that the people should come back to you as a brand. Here we have an example of, here we have example of another brand which is showcased all their products, and the range of products that's available. So this is another interesting way to use that effectively and say that you've got this entire list of things that would be there, and how is it that one could even build on this and use it much more. So I think there are a whole lot of ways which one could tackle up and use the cover picture. Just to move on, these are few examples that I'm going to take you. So from the cover picture, I've taken snapshots of few of the brands that have built presence in this space and how effectively they are using it to build awareness. So what you see is social media at the end of the day is all about pulling the users towards you. You're not pushing a message to them. So it's important that the kind of updates you put up or the kind of contests that you create have enough of material and enough of information with them so that people come back and interact with you. So here's an example of ITC Mughal that ITC has leveraged one of their properties, and they try to showcase why is it that people should really come to their property. We have a next example of Lakme, an FMCG brand that is trying to talk to users and say what is it that they really, what the product really has, what is the technology that they use. So putting up interesting pictures, talking about what is it that they have to offer, are interesting scenarios on how you could go about building awareness. Here is the e-commerce website called Pepperfry, which is showcasing its range of the products that are available. I think when done interestingly and when used in a more current and topic manner, you tend to create a lot more interaction and connectivity with the brands. Moving on, there are a few other objectives that could be achieved from Facebook. So here is again ITC back, and what they've done over here is they are encouraging commerce to happen on their site. So you have a tab that's available on their Facebook page, which allows users to figure out and check for rates and availability. And once you fill up these details, you could then proceed to their website to do the final transaction. A lot of information to be available over here, and you're encouraging online commerce to happen. This is an example of MIT Institute of Design that has again leveraged Facebook pretty well, where as using on one of their tabs, they have opened up an inquiry and a connect option, so people can not just connect and ask their set of questions that are there on Facebook with them, but they can also ask for admissions and fill up this one particular form and get all the admission queries sorted out. Facebook will also be used from a grievance redressal mechanism, and here is an instance where a person has had a not very pleasant experience with a brand, and how that brand has intervened on time and accepted its concern and quickly got back so that they could address the problem that's at hand and ultimately turn around an experience, a bad experience for the customer, into a slightly pleasant one. So here is another example of how you could assist your customers. So interestingly, Delhi Airport is now on using social media, and so here are some conversations that have happened and how the brand has got in and tried to build conversations with them. And so you make sure that you're talking not just when you're spoken to, but you can also at some levels intervene and get people to chat with you and build those kind of two-way conversations that are important. Here I have another example of Lakme, where there has been a feedback shared, and very critical that whenever feedback is coming your way, it's important that you tackle it, and quickly get on to it. This was just a snapshot on what Facebook was all about, and just moving on quickly to the next platform, which is Twitter, and trying to showcase what are the opportunities that exist in Twitter. So right from building thought leadership to giving out news updates about your brand, gathering feedback, and what people have to talk about your brand, and building customer relations. All of these objectives could be leveraged and achieved using Twitter. Let me take an example of Delhi Airport again on the look and feel that they have created for themselves. So after building in their identity, which is out there, they have also given people a reason on what they are all about and the fact that they are the official page about it. And what you have from there are the kind of conversations that follow. So you're making sure that the people who land up over there, or the people who are present out there, you're trying to build up the kind of participation and conversations with them. So very critical that remains constant and steady. One can also go about customizing handles. So here's an example of Yardley that has Katrina Kaif as its ambassador. So this is showcasing how they could leverage the new Twitter design and use the celebrities that they have signed on and use them very effectively for Twitter. Another good example of Comedy Central as the channel, on how they have showcased all the shows that are currently running on their Twitter background. Just goes on to show that you can create a lot of awareness, for what you are or what you have to offer, and to ensure that people connecting back with you and they know what you are going to be all about. Let me move on to some brands on Twitter who are doing a very good job of connecting with their users. So here's an example of Foster's, and in fact, let me tell you that if you really interact with them and participate with them well, they also send you a crate full of Foster's. So that's something to cheer about, really. But so here's one brand that has done a very good job of building a very high connect and a high engagement level with their users. It's from there, giving an example of Chennai Super Kings, where again the brand has tried to bring in that connect because it enjoys a very strong community. So it has made sure that they are constantly in touch with their fans and they're giving as much of live updates and information which is what their fans would really want them to talk about. So clearly a good job done over there. You have the Volkswagen, which has really started doing a great job on social media because they keep listening to what people really have to say. And after, if there are complaints, they have made sure that the complaints are heard and the problems are tackled. Some more snapshots of some Indian companies doing really well. And here what you see on the screen is about Mahindra. Here's another snapshot on how brands have used the hashtag. Now this hashtag as a feature on Twitter really helps where you could click on these hashtags and you can identify and figure out all the people who have tweeted about you as a brand, or you could have people communicating with you and using that hash. So anything for Jetta did very, very well. It trended for a couple of days and really got people to talk about their product and just as such build a lot of connect with them. We move on from here to YouTube and say that how is it that some companies are leveraging this platform very effectively. Here's an example of National Geographic. I mean, I think as a channel, we all really enjoy its content, and while we see it on that space, they have effectively used YouTube pretty well to customize their backgrounds and really give and increase the user appeal that will be there for themselves, because they already have nice content, but by also making a good channel around it, they've increased the stickiness factor. Here's a snapshot of Australian tourism that run a campaign called the best job in the world. What essentially it entailed was managing a particular island way off in Australia, and they had invited entries from people all over the world, and everyone had to submit their nomination by a form of video. So it's a very interesting campaign that they carried out, and I got a huge response from people all around the world. Here is the channels themselves and how they have tied up with YouTube, and they have gone a step further and they are now monetizing the channel. So if you are a content generating company, then you could pretty much use YouTube in this manner, where not only do you get to see a lot of views, but you can also start making money out of it by tying up with the channel. Here's an interesting example of a B2B campaign. So one of the most common question that comes to us is that, is social media relevant only from a B2C space? And the answer is clearly no. I think it just lies with how creatively can you use these platforms. And Siemens as a company is one great example of how, even despite the fact that they operate in a completely B2B space of engineering, but they have leveraged their social media platforms very effectively. So if you land up on their YouTube page, you will see a lot of their videos which are answering and building their brand campaign, which is answering the world's toughest questions. So what they've really done is they have taken that entire brand promise and converted them into videos, where they've showcased all the kind of work that they have done across the world, made interesting videos out of it, and millions of views have just been garnered through that. Apart from that, they have also picked up causes like the one you see on your screen right now. So quite frankly, I mean, B2B, even if you operate in the corporate space of B2B, you can still leverage social media very effectively and build a lot of brand salience for yourself. Here's another example of our own very Indian example of Fevicryl that has, again leveraged YouTube pretty effectively. So the brand has made dozens of videos where they have showcased how their product could be used. So one of the biggest concern that they realized was that users didn't know what really they need to be doing with the product. And they tried to tackle that question and that barrier by making interesting videos and thereby giving an idea and a perspective to consumers on just what exactly is possible. So this has addressed that biggest barrier of why people are not buying into Fevicryl. Now they understand what can be done with this brand by using this brand. So effectively it has opened up many reasons on why they should be picking it. Here is example of Ching's, and I think it's one of the more often repeated examples because I think the brand has really done a fantastic job. They have taken a very standard usage of getting a chef and an anchor, and they've made videos out of it. But what they've done very well is they have tackled their biggest concern, which is housewives who are very interested in making Chinese food at their own place, but they just didn't know how to go about it. So the biggest barrier that they had, they've tackled it using these videos. As such, it operates in a space which is very visual in nature. So by making these videos, what they have done for themselves is taken that challenge head on and now given and shown the housewife how they could simply by buying into this brand make Chinese easily at home and cook and answer that query that they always had in their mind. So let's just few stats over there. They have close to, at the stage of taking a video, they're close to some 30 odd videos, and they were really able to generate a lot of views. Quickly moving on to the other platform, which is about blogs and how they could go about building thought leadership. So it's very strange. I think in India, I think a few people made blogging famous. I'm sure all of you remember the time when Amir Khan's blog was pretty much quoted every second day in all the newspapers, and he was one person who got onto it early on and really used and effectively leveraged that platform. So you had a few people that made blogging famous, and at the same time there were blogs that made a few of them very famous. I'm sure all of us remember this one particular blog. It really garnered a lot of hits and connect with users at large. It's one of fake IPL player, which I think got on in the second season of IPL, and a lot of people were intrigued, and a massive following started taking place. So much so that this the blog was profiled in pretty much all TV channels and newspapers, and became quite a cult. So what the learnings that essentially come out from both the examples is that the blog could be used and leveraged effectively so long as you are honest to the space, so long as you are able to build a lot of credibility, to that. You just need to be at it. You need to ensure that you're disciplined about it. You're putting in original content out there, and the kind of content that you put up over there has to provide a lot of value to people. There must be a reason why people would want to come back and read your blog time and again. So as you get onto this space, ask this question to yourself, that what is it that your blog is going to be talking to you with users? What are you going to bring to the table which is going to be so unique, so different, which will get people coming back to you for more? This is one of my favorite examples, and I pretty much give this example in most of the sessions that I take. It's about Southwest Airlines. It was one of those very few airlines that started off right from 60s, and it's one of those no-frill airlines that got off. And what they would do is they would give out a small packet of peanuts to all the passengers. But it would be an airline, I mean, the airline is caught on with everyone, and the packet of peanuts essentially became a symbolic of what their airline was. It still is one of the most loved airline, and people who traveled in it really swear by it and often have a very high loyalty factor. So what Southwest has done on their blog is very nicely integrated the entire concept of peanuts and that particular visual and caught it well on the blog so that it's a visually appealing site. At the same time, you see on your right hand side, where they put their Twitter, Facebook, and other links. It's a very interesting way of doing things. I mean, more ways to go nuts. It's just the entire manner in which the communication has been built. It's very conversational in nature. It's not preachy. It's matter of fact, but it's conversational. It's connecting to the users. It's talking to them like their friend. And it's one of those blogs which I would really urge everyone to take out time and read about and get a better idea of what a real good blog should be all about. Here's another interesting blog that I personally follow. It is about, it is being written by the CTO of Hitachi, a gentleman by the name of Ko Yoshida. And here again, being someone of, who's at a higher senior level, he's able to bring a lot of insights to his users. So he's not just using this blog to talk about his own company, but giving a much larger perspective about, where is the space headed, what are the new technologies that are available, and yet in that manner building a very strong loyalty and a high readership. Moving on, from blogs we're just going on to another social media platform which is used very effectively for presentations. In fact, Slideshare has been growing phenomenally. And one of the things that we should be proud about is the only possible Indian social media site that has gone global and that has become so well accepted all around. So something really to be proud about. So what is it that one could really look at Slideshare, and how is it that one could build a lot of connect and attachment, from the brand perspective? Here is an example of Cisco. And what Cisco has done is taken a professional account out there so that they could, design the entire background for themselves. And they've got a lot of customized pictures. They've got a background for themselves, a cover banner that they could use effectively. Also, interesting way in which their presentations have been shared over there and the information about them. So one of the interesting things, and what sites like Slideshare and YouTube do is they act as repositories. So whenever you are planning a campaign, ensure that a lot of your content is actually resting on these sites, and then you can pull content from here and embed it on your website and embed it on your Facebook page. It's important that instead of actually loading all your videos and screen and your PPTs on Facebook or website, it's better that you first get them on these sites, and then from here pull and embed it into your thing. So that way your website is also not becoming very heavy and much faster to load. Here's another example of DuPont, which showcases how they've made a lot of presentations and brought out the entire range for their users, so that people get a much better idea about what is it that they really have to offer. Moving on to Foursquare, I think it's one of the newer platforms that has hit, and something that has really caught on fancy right now. So I think what's going to be interesting with Foursquare is how people will people are using this on a location-based thing, and and that can be leveraged by brands by offering better deals and offerings. So I have an example. I'm just giving a little screenshot on how this location-based platform could reveal where people do keep checking in. So what you need to do is, once you reach a place, you need to use your mobile only for this, and whenever you reach a particular destination, you can log on to Foursquare and say that you have checked in into that particular place. And from there, if you check in enough and at a frequent level, then you can also end up becoming a mayor of that particular place. So the way brands could use this platform is essentially as a CRM tool, where they could build loyalty, where they could build customer delight. So I think these two things can be used and leveraged very effectively from a Foursquare perspective. Here is an example to say that how one could really check into a particular place, and if there are offers, so let's say if you're a particular restaurant or if you're a retail outlet and you're running offers, so whenever somebody does check in, they can also avail these offers, and essentially you can generate a lot more business from this particular site. So what I intend to do here is that before I get on to that, just try and explain the different platforms that are there that I've just taken you through. This is one snapshot I'm sure you have seen on, it has been floating around on the social media place for quite a while. I'm sure you must have seen it earlier getting viral out on your Facebook or Twitter. But I think it's giving an idea in terms of saying that how each platform is different. So Twitter is all about telling people what you essentially think. Facebook is actually, it's more of a fast. You've already done some activity, and then you are going to go over there and say, hey, okay, I did that, and you're going to go and put up your pictures and photographs according to that. Foursquare is actually saying where is it that you really went about doing it. YouTube is all about the visuals, and LinkedIn essentially is all about promoting yourself and saying that you are good at it, because ultimately that's what LinkedIn really does. So to quite honestly sum this campaign, I can possibly take on a lot of questions from here on. To sum it up, my point is that we as brands sometimes we tend to be very skeptical, whether we should leverage social media or not, whether we should get onto the space or not. My only line to them is that irrespective of whether you as a brand, if you're online or not, your customers are. And what's important is that they are talking about you. So it's up to you on how you want to leverage this space, on how you can do it. There is an opportunity existing out there. There are people out there who are keen to interact with you as a brand. So just get out there and make sure that you're trying to leverage it the most. Thank you very much for this. And what I'll do right now is quickly take on a lot of some of the questions that have started coming up. So that will give us an opportunity to kind of answer some of that. So I have a first question that is lined up by Annabelle, which she's saying that as a startup, is creating a Wikipedia page a good idea? Well, my Wikipedia definitely is a very credible platform, and it definitely increases, and people visit Wikipedia a lot more, in fact more often than even Google search sometimes. So having a presence on Wikipedia is of importance. But having said that, to build a Wikipedia page, you also need to have and have a lot of erstwhile presence and credibility established, because you will also need to provide a lot of internal and external references in order to make the page stick over there. Also, what you have to realize that Wikipedia is an unbiased platform. So you have to make sure that the presence you create out there is of It's very neutral in its approach. It is not unnecessarily biased, and it definitely has to be factual. So long, and what happens as a startup is that you may not have many of external references built in as yet. So till the time that happens, it will take some bit of time. The moment you are able to, then I think it should be a good idea to build a Wikipedia presence. Alright, there's another question which I believe a part of it has already been answered. It's asked by Pranav, who's saying that how does blogging help in leveraging social media? So I think I've just briefly touched upon saying that how blogs could essentially play a role, but let me quickly sum it up by saying that blogs will help you in thought leadership. So if you want to be known as a thought leader in your particular category, if you want to be known as an expert, then getting onto blogs is going to be very crucial. It will help you connect with your users. It will give you a platform to point and platform for you to spread your views out, a platform for you to put your opinion, put your research out. So very clearly, it's a very credible space. A lot of traditional media tend to go to your blog to pick up a lot of quotes or a lot of research. So blogging distinctly helps you in building thought leadership as a very critical objective. Excuse me. So distinctly, that's one thing which can be done. Also, blog can act as a aggregator of sorts. So you could pull in your presentations out there, you could pull in some of your videos out there. So a lot of conversations can be built and a point of view that can be exchanged at a larger level. Excuse me again. Alright, so I have another question by Annabelle. She's saying that how do I research what my target audience wants to know about my product or service before starting my social media activity? Well, Annabelle, I think it's very simple. What would be important is that you would need to go about scanning the universe, and for that there are various online forums, online groups, communities that exist. You need to identify the ones that are relevant to your product or service category, and you need to go out there and figure out what is it that people really are trying to talk about. What are their concern areas? What is the kind of information that they are seeking, and something that which you could pick on and use that and start answering those kind of questions. So there are various communities like that. Twitter itself is a very good listening platform. So there's a lot of people giving out point of views. So it would even be important if you could just ask certain questions, tweet about your certain questions, seek a point of view from there on Twitter. You could even go out on these forums and communities and figure out what people have had to say. If there are certain bloggers existing who write on this space, also would be a good idea for you to figure out what is it about that they have written on their blogs and use that as a starting point. So I think all these things would really help in carrying out a research and using it effectively. Well, there's another question that come by her, which is about, will online commerce be active in the new timeline? Well, so I'm assuming here by online commerce we are referring to Facebook commerce. Now Facebook commerce is already active in a lot of ways. You have a lot of applications that are currently available on Facebook which you could use to activate Facebook commerce. In fact, to give you an example, in US, Heinz ketchup, which is so fondly known for that, they introduced a new variant of their ketchup, and that was done only on their Facebook page. So the entire launch, you could even buy that particular ketchup only from Facebook. So there was no real physical distribution that was done for it, and the entire launch to distribution to commerce, everything happened only from their Facebook page. So in a lot of ways, Facebook commerce is already active, but what is important, like most things, is that are you how are you going to leverage that? It just has to be done intelligently. It just has to be done in a manner which is, in sync with your category and what is it that you could, really provide value for. So I think all of that, pretty much boils down to these things, which to me quite honestly are answers. So yeah. I have, I believe these are some of the questions that I see immediately that have been popped up, and they are there, with me. All right. There, I see a few more coming in. Right.
Yeah, I've shared few more questions
I see.
with you.
Right. So I have another question that's come in right now by Atul, and he's saying that any insights as what's coming after Orkut, Facebook, Twitter, what's next? Well, my friend, I wish I could answer that, and I think if there's one worry that a very interesting quote which one of the CEOs mentioned in their seminars, that the CEO of Google, and he mentioned that his biggest competition is not really a Yahoo or a Facebook. His biggest competition is basically some project, some work that's currently going on in a garage, which is going to be the next big idea and which is going to just go and change the world out. So quite honestly, I'm sure this space is so exciting that a lot of people are working on a lot of social products. And my belief is that any product which is going to go and simplify our lives and is going to be something what we have all turned out to be, the way we adapt to media. That's the kind of product that's going to work. Also, I believe that for any next platform that's going to come out, it will need to create a lot of ecosystem. So it's important that ecosystem is created. It's been done by Twitter. It's been done by Facebook. So long as you're able to create a good ecosystem, your number of users are only going to increase, and you'll be able to really do and those are platforms that will really survive. I have a question from Mehdi, which is about Pinterest.com and how do you categorize this website. I think Pinterest really has taken everyone by storm, and one interesting trivia is that close to 86% of the users on Pinterest are women. And I think it's just amazing as a stat because all other platforms are completely male skewed, and here you have a completely pictorial, site that's been come up and again really challenged the mights of Facebook in its own way, in their own space. So Pinterest to me is a very good platforms that brands that operate in the more visual category should leverage. It's a platform that can really get you a lot of hits. What's important is that you need to, the way Pinterest operates is you can create a board and pin up a lot of images which you particularly like. And what's going to happen is that if people like those pictures too, they will either repin it or go and follow your board, which means that you're creating a lot more followers. Now, if these images that you have pinned on your board have all come from your website, then what Pinterest will help is that it will help you get a lot of traffic back to your website. Because when they click on that particular images from your board, they will all be taken back to your website. So this will essentially help you in generating a lot of relevant target audience and drive a traffic back to your particular site. I have a question now from Bhagyashree. She's asking about for marketing a single product, on which social networking site should she focus on? So, well, I think again, the platforms to me are decided, or should be decided only after you have closed on the objective. What really is the objective that you have, that you want to fulfill, and accordingly you can select a particular platform. So I would say that social networking site per se itself could come in later. First, what you need to do is select a platform. Whether you want a blogging site, whether you want a microblog like a Twitter, whether you want a Q&A site, whether you want a social networking site. So first, figure out a particular platform, and then from there you can decide what networking site to build. So Facebook to me is a good aggregator. So if you are a brand, a product or a service which needs a lot of aggregation, which has basically involving a lot of users and consumers to come to you, build that discussion, Facebook is a good page. Twitter can be used very effectively from news dissemination point of view, and also for gathering a lot of feedback, if you would want to do. So to me, in the current status, I would say Facebook still forms a more important platform and something that would tend to always come in your selection of platforms, in your marketing, in your social marketing plan. So yeah, that's only one site which I think has many more features that you could explore upon. Having said that, of course, I must mention the example of Siemens again, where they are not on Facebook, but they have effectively leveraged YouTube very well. Because what they realize is that when they want to remain true to their campaign thought of answering the world's toughest questions, they felt that visual content is going to be the best way to solve that, to reach that objective. By showcasing their work through a visual format, they will be able to form a better connect. So for them, YouTube became the primary platform. Another example that one can give over here is of British Petroleum, and during the crisis they had where there was an oil spill, they again leveraged Twitter and YouTube far more effectively, and I think those platforms work for them really well in order to do that damage control. So I would say keep your objective in mind and then select your platforms accordingly. I have another question from Ramesh Rajamani. He's saying that how do I keep contacts across social media? So, well, I think it's just a question of too many, and I for one have now I've started getting like distinct form of my network. So I have LinkedIn sort of friends, and I have my Twitter friends, and then I have friends whom I know in the offline space who I've also got them connected to Facebook. So I think one just needs to compartmentalize them, and it's up to you, quite honestly, on how much access you want to give out to each one of them, and how much entry do you want to give to everyone, to kind of enter your life, because each of this platform, I'm sure, will have a lot to offer, and each of this contact, you can use Facebook for maintaining a certain set of contact. Now what happens is that on Facebook you're sharing a lot of information, so you need to decide really who and how much you want as your friend, and how much should that person really know. So quite honestly, that's a call that you would have to take on your own comfort with privacy. All right, with that, I think we come to an end, with the kind of questions that are there. If there are any specific pointers that you guys have, or any specific platforms that you guys would want to touch upon or talk upon, we can still take a few more, I guess, before we wind up for the day. All right. Well, I guess that brings us to an end, because we've come to a close, and I hope that you found this session interesting, and you've gained something out of it. I am also hoping that each one of you would get onto social media after this. There might be certain challenges, but I still believe that logging in and trying it out is an effective way. So just dive in. It's a lot like swimming. You can't learn it by just reading a book or attending a webinar. After at the end of it, from there you just need to dive in. And I'm sure you'll struggle a bit in the beginning, but eventually get a grip and really learn it all out. Okay, I think I've just got one query again. Just time for I think one last question, I think, before we end. There is one again from Annabelle, and she's saying that between Facebook advertising or pay-per-click advertising, which one is most recommended? I think PPC more, I think, in the larger format, and FB advertising, I think, are two different things. So again, really, these are the kind of questions which which platforms to take or which medias to select really would depend on the kind of objectives that you want to see, and because if it is going to be a very targeted campaign, if you operate in a area or in a domain which is really very niche and has a specific TG, then I think Facebook advertising could play a much critical role, and it could really help you getting the right set of people to come back and click on your page, and be of possibly could leverage it a lot more. So yeah, I think the deciding on the objective, and then depending on that, you could be able to figure out what is the right way to go about it. All right, guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for logging in, and really appreciate taking out time. I hope you've been able to gain some insights from here, and do log into social media and have a good time when you're spending out your time out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nate, for such an informative session. We understood many new concepts and areas of social media. The webinar was a big success. I would also like to thank all participants for attending this webinar and making this so successful. The next webinar on TechGig is happening at 3 p.m. tomorrow. The topic is creating fault-tolerant Linux servers for high availability. Vineet Daniel, manager IT at letfy.com, will present the webinar. I would like to request you to please join us tomorrow in the webinar. Details can be found in webinar section on techgig.com. So once again, thank you all. Bye bye.